Property investment is often viewed as a rich man's game, but thinking you need six figures in the bank to start is the single biggest lie in the American housing market. If you have $10,000, you don't have a savings problem. You have a strategy problem. Here is the exact blueprint to turn that $10,000 into a deed. We are going to break down the FHA loophole, the exact math behind house hacking, the psychology of tenant management, and most importantly, the one hidden document that kills 90% of deals, which I'll show you exactly how to bypass later in this masterclass. This is Property Path. Let's get to work. Listen to me closely. The system is rigged against the saver. If you are sitting there waiting to save 20% for a down payment, you are losing the game before you even step onto the field. Inflation is eating your cash faster than you can stack it. Every single month you wait, the purchasing power of that dollar in your traditional savings account dies a little bit more. You are trading your time, the most valuable asset you have, for a currency that the government prints on demand. Wealth is not built by hoarding cash. Wealth is built by controlling scarce assets. And today, I'm going to give you the exact, step-by-step blueprint to turn that $10,000 into your first piece of real estate using the banking system's own rules against them. This isn't theory. This is the exact mathematical framework used by professionals. First, delete the idea of a 20% down payment from your brain right now. That rule is for traditional investors buying their fourth or fifth property, or for people buying vacation homes. As a first-time buyer or someone buying a primary residence, your greatest leverage in the United States is the FHA loan. The Federal Housing Administration allows you to purchase a primary residence with as little as 3.5% down, provided your credit score is 580 or higher. If your credit score is between 500 and 579, you can still get an FHA loan, but you'll need 10% down. For this $10,000 blueprint, we are assuming you have at least a 580 credit score. If you don't, pause this video, go fix your credit, and come back. Let's do the real math. On a property listed at $285,000, a 3.5% down payment is exactly $9,975. You are controlling a $250,000 asset for less than the price of a used Honda Civic. Now, the skeptics in the comments are already screaming, what about closing costs? What about inspections? What about appraisal fees? You're right, that $10,000 only covers the equity entry. You still need another $4,000 to $7,000 to officially close the deal. But we are not going to use your money for that. This is where you learn how to negotiate like a transaction engineer. In the current market, you can ask for seller concessions. This is where the seller pays your closing costs out of their proceeds from the sale. How do you get this? You do not look for the perfect, newly renovated house with white shaker cabinets that just hit the market on a Friday. You look for the stale listings. If you find a motivated seller, someone whose house has been sitting on Zillow for 45, 60, or 90 days, they are bleeding cash. They are paying a mortgage, property taxes, and insurance on an empty house. They are desperate. They will happily pay your $5,000 closing cost just to get the deal done and stop their financial bleeding. You tell your realtor to write the offer at the asking price, but with a $5,000 seller credit at closing. That keeps you out of pocket strictly at $10,000. However, you can't just buy a house. You need to buy an asset. If you use that FHA loan to buy a beautiful single-family home just for yourself, you just bought a liability. You are the only one paying the debt. If you lose your job, you lose the house. The strategy we are executing here is house hacking. You use that low down payment FHA loan to purchase a multifamily property, a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex. The government allows you to buy up to 4 units with a residential FHA loan. You live in one unit to satisfy the bank's primary residence requirement for exactly 1 year. Meanwhile, your tenants right next door pay off your 30-year debt. Your $10,000 secures the asset, and the tenants secure the cash flow. Let's break down the exact numbers on a triplex. Let's say the mortgage, including taxes and insurance, is $2,200 a month. You live in unit number 1. You rent the other 2 units for $1,100 each. That is $2,200 coming in from your tenants and $2,200 going out to the bank. You are now living for free. You have eliminated your biggest monthly expense, housing, while simultaneously building equity in a massive asset. You can take the $1,500 or $2,000 you used to pay in rent every month and funnel it directly into buying your next property. This is how the rich compound their wealth. If you live in an expensive coastal city like New York, San Francisco, or Los Angeles, this might sound completely impossible. A triplex there costs $2 million. So what is the answer? Do you just give up? No, you move your money. You look at secondary, cash flow friendly markets like Ohio, Indiana, Missouri, or parts of the Carolinas where the numbers actually make sense. You can live in an affordable market for 1 year, establish your foundation, and then move wherever you want once the asset is stabilized. But you have to be careful, because right now I need to talk about that hidden hurdle I mentioned at the start. The one single metric that kills 90% of rookie house hackers dead in their tracks. It's called the FHA Self-Sufficiency test. Listen to me very carefully, because your loan officer probably won't explain this to you until it's too late. This test applies specifically if you are trying to buy a 3-unit or 4-unit property using an FHA loan. The government requires that 75% of the projected rental income from all the units, including the one you plan to live in, must completely cover the monthly mortgage payment. They take the total market rent of the building, multiply it by 0.75 to account for potential vacancies and maintenance, and if that number is less than your mortgage payment, the bank will deny the loan. Period. It does not matter if you have an 800 credit score. It does not matter if you have the $10,000 cash sitting in your checking account ready to wire to the title company. The deal is dead. Most amateurs find a great fourplex, pay $500 for an appraisal, pay $400 for a home inspection, and then get hit with the self-sufficiency test 2 weeks before closing and lose all their money. Don't let the banks waste your capital. The solution? If you are operating in a high interest rate environment, the math for the self-sufficiency test is incredibly hard to pass on a triplex or fourplex. So you pivot, you stick to a duplex. The self-sufficiency test does not apply to duplexes. A 2-unit property is the path of least resistance for your first deal. Knowing this one specific rule puts you ahead of 99% of the people aimlessly browsing Zillow right now. Now, let's talk about the reality of being a landlord, because house hacking is not entirely passive income. You are going to be living sharing a wall with your tenants. You need strict, non-negotiable systems. Amateurs become friends with their tenants. Professionals treat it like a business from day one. When you buy this duplex, you are going to enforce a strict screening process. You require a credit score of at least 650. You require proof of income that is 3 times the monthly rent. You call their previous landlord not their current landlord because their current landlord might lie just to get rid of them. You call the landlord before that. You enforce late fees on the 2nd of the month, no exceptions. If you train your tenants to respect your boundaries, house hacking is a dream. If you are weak, they will walk all over you. But what if you are sitting there thinking, my credit score is below 580, or I already used my FHA loan and I don't have 20% to buy a second property? This is where your plan B comes in. This is where we leave the traditional banking system entirely. It's an advanced strategy called subject to real estate. Subject to means you are buying a property subject to the existing mortgage staying in place. You are not going to a bank. You are not getting your credit pulled. You are not getting a new loan with today's high interest rates. You are taking over a seller's existing mortgage payments. Think about this. Millions of Americans bought or refinanced homes in 2020 and 2021 when interest rates were at 2.5 or 3%. Now, life happens. People get divorced. People lose their jobs. People get relocated across the country for work and they need to move immediately. They cannot afford to let their house sit on the market for 3 months, and they might not have enough equity to pay a realtor a 6% commission. They are in distress. You step in. You find this distressed seller. You offer to give them your $10,000 as their moving money or to cover whatever small equity they have left. In exchange, they sign the actual deed of the house over to you. You are now the legal owner of the property. But the mortgage? The mortgage stays in their name. You simply start making their 3% interest mortgage payments on their behalf. You effectively buy the house without a credit check, without a bank application, and without paying high modern interest rates. You get their low payment, which means your cash flow when you rent it out will be massive. Now, to be completely transparent, this is an advanced strategy. You must use a specialized real estate attorney to draft this paperwork properly. There is something called the due on sale clause in almost every mortgage contract, which says the bank can demand the loan be paid in full if the deed transfers. However, banks are in the business of collecting interest, not foreclosing on performing notes. If the payments are being made on time, every time, they rarely execute this clause. But you must be aware of the mechanics. It proves my ultimate point. You don't need a bank to buy a house. You need a motivated seller and an ironclad strategy. Let's zoom out and look at the macro picture. Let's look at what happens when you actually execute this blueprint over the next decade. In 5 years, the person who watched this video got scared and decided to keep saving their money in a high-yield savings account. Might have $20,000 or $30,000 saved up, but inflation has driven the cost of housing, groceries, and energy up by 25%. Their purchasing power is completely destroyed. They are running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. But the person who took action, the person who bought that $285,000 duplex with $10,000 down, let's look at their reality. First, they have tenants paying down their loan principal every single month. That is forced savings. Second, they have tax depreciation. The IRS allows you to write off the value of the building over 27.5 years, meaning a massive portion of the rental income you receive is completely tax-free. Third, you have appreciation. Even if the real estate market only goes up by a conservative 3% a year, compounding over 5 years means that $285,000 asset is now worth roughly $330,000. You gained over $45,000 in pure equity, plus thousands in loan paydown, plus monthly cash flow, all from an initial $10,000 investment. You didn't lift a finger to make the market appreciate. The asset did the heavy lifting for you. Once you have that equity, you don't sell the house and pay capital gains taxes. You do a cash-out refinance, pull your original $10,000 back out, plus another $30,000 of profit, tax-free, because debt is not taxable. You take that $40,000 and you go buy 2 more properties. Then you do it again and again. This is the velocity of money. The market strictly rewards leverage. It mercilessly punishes people who hoard cash. The information I just gave you is completely free. The execution is what is going to cost you courage. You have to be willing to make uncomfortable phone calls to realtors. You have to be willing to analyze 50 different deals before you find the one that makes mathematical sense. You have to be willing to tell a seller exactly what you want and not flinch. I want you to close this video, go to Zillow right now. Filter the search results specifically for multifamily. Look at the prices in your local area or in the Midwest. If you are on the coast, run the 3.5% FHA math on your phone calculator. Then come back here and comment the name of the exact city where you are going to buy your first property. Stop researching for another 6 months. Stop waiting for the perfect time. The perfect time was a decade ago. The second best time is today. Start analyzing deals and start submitting offers. I'll see you in the comments.